Good morning and welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's administrative meeting for March 10th, 2021. We'll begin with approval of the minutes from our last meeting on March 3rd, 2021, beginning with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. That meeting minutes are approved. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There are two items on today's consent agenda. Item number one is from Talk America Services, LLC, requesting cancellation of its certificate of authority. And item number two is a notification from NRG Energy, Inc. of license updates for the company's affiliates.
Thank you. Seeing no questions on either of these two consent items, I would move that with respect to item number one, that we rescind the company's authority to operate in Maryland and cancel its tariff. And with respect to item number two, that we note the filing. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. That meeting minutes are approved. Mr. Secretary, the consent agenda, please, or the administrative agenda.
Mr. Chairman, items number 3 and 4 on the administrative agenda are both from Hercules Energy, LLC. The first is an application for a license to supply natural gas in Maryland, and the second, item number 4, is an application for a license to supply electricity in Maryland. On this item, for staff, we have Nan Zhang and Kenneth Albert, and for the company, James Rosen, Brooke Schilling, and Adam Warren.
Thank you. Good morning. We'll begin with staff.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Nan Zhang on behalf of staff. On December 22nd, 2020, Hercules Energy LLC filed an application for license to supply electricity and natural gas services in Maryland. The company included a telemarketing script in its applications. There are two false statements in the script. First, I understand everyone uses a broker, so that's why I contacted you. Our company can beat any broker's rate. However, not everyone uses a broker, and there is no way for a broker to know all other brokers' rates. Therefore, a broker cannot determine whether its rates are lower than the rates that other brokers can obtain for a customer. The second false statement in the script is, by not having a supplier, you could be paying the highest rate in the market. The utility standard offer service rate has never been the highest on the market. As noted above, staff recommends that the Commission reject the company license to operate as an electricity or natural gas supplier in Maryland.
Thank you, Ms. Zhang. Will, if you could please mute, we will turn to a representative from the company, Hercules Energy, LLC.
Hi, my name is James Rosen. I'm with Hercules Energy. When we submitted the script, it was the first script that we had used, and we were using that in the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio approved it, so that was the one we submitted for Maryland. Now, being that the criteria was different for Maryland, we didn't have a problem changing the script. So we did that, and we resubmitted the script. I feel that we've supplied everything else that was necessary to get approved, and we are working in other states, and we have been successful helping people save money and energy. So we would ask that we be approved, because our intention is to do what's best for the customer. And if the script needs change to accommodate Maryland, we've done that. And I don't know if you have a copy of that or not, but I'd be happy to supply it for you.
Thank you, sir. And you are James, is it Rosen?
Yes, Rosen.
Thank you. And you are the owner of the company?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We do have the revised script that was filed by your office on Monday before us. So I have a couple questions, as do my colleagues, as we proceed. Now, it looks like Hercules is relatively new to the broker supply business. Is that correct?
Yes, we're new to the broker supply business, but we're not new to the energy business. We have an affiliate company that I own as well. It's called Hercules LED, where we go into businesses and help them save money and electricity by doing conversions. Now, we've been doing that for 7 years. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We've done thousands of jobs and people love what we do. We have no complaints. We get referred jobs all the time. This is just another division of the company. Once we have them as a customer on the LED side, we can help them save more in energy by converting their supply over. So that was our intention with this. So, you know, we've done energy savings analysis through LED, and we've been successful. We've processed rebates in all the states. So this is just another division, and we're happy to do it.
So Hercules LED is in the business of retrofitting commercial or industrial properties?
That's correct.
And just to be clear, you now have broker licenses in 5 states, is that right?
We actually, let me pull up our latest spreadsheet. We have more now. We are approved in New Hampshire, DC, Virginia, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Ohio, Texas, and Rhode Island now.
When you filed in December, is it correct that at the time you were only licensed in Ohio and Texas?
That's correct. And that was our first script that we had gotten as a template to use. And we realized that there were some changes we need to make. Now, we didn't make calls using that script you have. We didn't start making calls for energy until January. So everything was corrected prior to January.
I'm sorry, when you say corrected prior to January, we have 2 scripts now before us, the one that staff took issue with, and then the one that you filed on Monday. Obviously, you're not licensed in the state. So you're saying that you used the other script in these other states prior to January?
No, we used the revised script.
The script that we just received on Monday?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So obviously you're expanding rather exponentially and very quickly, adding 8 states since the beginning of the year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you have counsel to assist Hercules with respect to the laws and regulations of all these individual states, because they do vary tremendously?
We get that information from the states. We ask, you know, they send us what their requirements are, and we abide by the requirements of each state.
Is Hercules familiar with the MTSA?
I am not familiar with MTSA, but one of my associates may be. We have a gentleman that runs our energy division that has experience in the energy business, and so he's probably familiar with that.
Is he with us today?
He should be, but I'm not seeing him on here for some reason.
Is that Adam Warren?
Yes, it is Adam Warren. Adam, are you on the call?
It appears that he is. If he could unmute his microphone.
Hi, I apologize. I didn't realize I had to physically unmute it on the computer. But to piggyback off of what James said, I am not familiar with MTSA in regards to the Maryland licensing.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. If it's possible to turn on your camera, that would be terrific.
I actually do not physically have a camera in this office. If you would like me to call back on my cell phone, I can do so. But I don't have a camera.
That's quite all right. Mr. Warren, are you familiar with Comar?
Again, no, I'm not familiar with Comar.
And just one last question, Mr. Warren, are you familiar with the Public Utilities article?
I'm familiar with the Public Utilities Commissions in various different states. What article are you speaking of?
State law.
For Maryland?
Yes.
No, I'm not an expert in state law for Maryland Public Utilities Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Mr. Rosen, I reviewed your resume that you submitted along with the resumes of some of your other senior officers, including Eric Lamb and Brooke Schilling. Your entire application was filed as non-public and privileged. Can I ask why?
There was no necessary reason for it. We just, I believe that, a lot of these states are asking for financial information, and we don't want to make that public at this point. Just for
Okay.
competitive reasons and so forth.
I do recognize that there were some sensitive information regarding your revenues and financials,
Right.
but your base application was also filed as non-public, so that has not been made available to any of the parties or the public, with the exception of staff's review, which is concerning. And the commission does have precedent where it's not permitted an application to go forward when it's been filed under seal. To date, the only item that is public is the filing that you made on Monday with respect to the telemarketing script. If I could just ask you a few questions about the script. And Mr. Warren, if you could remute yourself, just so we don't have some feedback coming from your microphone.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks. And Mr. Warren, if you need to jump in, just unmute. Mr. Rosen, looking at the revised telemarketing script that you have, and this is a business that you're well familiar with. According to your resume, you've obtained new accounts through cold calling, telemarketing, and networking. So I suspect you're pretty familiar with sales by phone.
Yes.
Okay. In reviewing the new 2-page script, when you contact the potential customer who may be responsible for the energy contract, the caller from Hercules would note that they have an expiring upcoming contract. How does Hercules Energy know that a particular commercial or industrial customer has an expiring contract?
Most of the utility companies will let you know that there's an expiration on their contract with whoever they're with. Adam, can you speak to that? He can answer that question a little more eloquently than I can. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It has been our experience with the commercial clients that we've dealt with across multiple different utility companies and utility areas that a solid majority of the customers are currently under some sort of supply agreement. Texas, you have to have a provider agreement for the energy. We do not physically get contract expiration dates without the customer's permission or without the customer's exclusive consent to get that expiration date. But the majority of the clients that we do reach out to have contracts, and those contracts all have expiration dates based off of the paperwork that is provided by the suppliers.
Mr. Warren, isn't it then misleading to call the customer and tell them that their contract is expiring if you don't know for certain that the contract is expiring?
We are in no way trying to mislead a client into believing that their contracts are expiring. We are generally just trying to fish for information regarding the current energy contracts, as well as generate new business here in our field. I mean, the majority of customers who have current agreements will generally sign on to a 1 or a 2-year agreement, which is within our wheelhouse to renew. We can actually renew contracts with most of our providers up to 3 years in advance, based off of the parameters that they give us on their daily matrix pricing.
Mr. Warren, I'm having trouble reconciling that, because the second question is, it looks like you currently have an energy contract that is coming up for expiration soon. Were you aware of that? Now, that may just be a question to engage the customer, but the representative in this new script is telling the customer that their contract is expiring soon. Wouldn't that be misleading if, let's say, the customer just signed on with another broker for a fixed 2-year contract, and then you call and say that their contract's expiring soon?
Well, obviously, we would not proceed in a situation where they just signed up with another broker onto a new 2-year contract. Again, it is to grab the customer's attention and get them thinking about energy and to pull out their information or contracts or energy bills in order to find out if there is an opportunity for the renewal.
I'll stop you there. You just stated that you would not proceed if they had just signed up with another broker. But on page 2, if the customer says they have another broker, Hercules' response is, I understand many customers use a broker and that's why I contacted you. All I'm asking is for the opportunity to earn your business. Please get your bill handy and let's compare. So
Yes, correct.
This would
And
imply that, I'll
sorry.
ask the question. This would imply that notwithstanding the fact that they just signed on with a broker last week, that you're still going to pursue them.
Well, and this is just a general sales script. It's a case-by-case basis. If they signed on with a broker last week, obviously you would have to use your better judgment and know that the opportunity is not there to pursue. In respect to if they already currently have a broker in the area and they are coming up for expiration, we're looking to offer competitive bids to earn business to become the broker for the next energy contract. This is not meant to say, hey, you have a broker, we'd like to switch you away to Hercules, even though you just signed up with them last week. There's obviously some sort of personal aspect that goes into actually fielding this, because with energy, you can't just break a contract, you can't just switch a supplier, you can't just switch a broker. There's more information. This is just a general sales script to get the customer interested in thinking about energy. If the opportunity is not there, or if they just signed up, we do not pursue that option until after they are able to.
Do you have a third party that's recording all of the telephone solicitations with potential customers?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm going to yield to my colleagues at this point if they have questions of the Hercules representatives or staff. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rosen, would you agree that with staff or not, that the two statements that they flag as being misleading in your sales script are misleading? Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would agree somewhat. All sales scripts are altered and changed and refined. We are continually learning more and revising the things that we do. We even do that on the LED side. You know, our intention isn't to mislead a customer or waste our time or their time if they're in an agreement and there's nothing we can do. All we want to see is if there's an opportunity there for us to help a customer. And if there is an opportunity, then we want to have the chance to earn their business. If not, we walk.
So there's a regimen of very, very controlled requirements in the state of Maryland, and yet your company is not familiar with the Code of Maryland regulations. You're not familiar with the Maryland Telephone Solicitation Act, which contain very important customer protections, consumer protections. You're not familiar with the Public Utilities Article specifics for the state of Maryland, which require very specific adherence to state law. And yet you're before us with an application to do business as a supplier in the state of Maryland, and your company doesn't appear to be familiar with any of the requirements in Maryland. How can you be in compliance? How can you assure this commission that you're going to be in compliance with all those requirements?
Well, you know, the process is different across the board. Every state has a different process. We've never been asked to acknowledge any of these items that you're asking about from any other state. Some of the states are simple to, you know, when we applied for Texas, they basically took the application, ran us as a company, and said, "Okay, you're approved."
I'm not sure Texas is a good model to cite right now, but go ahead.
Exactly. Some are very easy, and some are more complex. And we don't have a problem with complex. We just want to know, what do you need us to know in order to get approved? And we'll know it. You know, if you say, hey, you need to know these articles, then we'll know the articles. We just don't have the articles to know them.
Well, they're public documents, or with all due respect, they're public documents. There's nothing hidden there. And you would think if you were doing due diligence, you were going to do business in the state and come before the body that is going to approve your application and do at least a little homework, at least a little due diligence. And we're not other states. We care about our citizens, our consumers, our state, our requirements, and our laws.
Mhm.
And not Texas's or Ohio's or any other states, although we do.
I was just using that as an example.
I'm sorry?
I understand. I was just using that as an example. Some states
Yeah,
have requirements.
I'm just very concerned. We need to make sure that you understand what it takes to do business in this state. And obviously it doesn't appear that Hercules does.
If we're provided that information, we'll learn what it is that to do business in your state, and we'll fulfill that. We just don't know what you want us to know. You know, we're learning as we go. Each state has different requirements, and whatever those requirements are, then we'll follow.
Yeah, it seems like you've shotgunned a bunch of applications and you've got 8 new approvals since January, and that's very concerning to me.
We're not about shotgunning. We're very transparent, and we're here to do business and do right by our customers, and especially the ones in Maryland and all other states.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good morning, Mr. Rosen.
Good morning.
I see from your application that you're applying to be a broker in Maryland.
Yes.
That's correct? So does, without giving me any names or anything, does Hercules have existing arrangements with licensed suppliers in Maryland?
Yes, sir. We do.
Okay. So the strategy that you're looking to employ here is to have those customers that you broker with to transfer them, I guess, or have them participate in some product that would be offered by the suppliers that you're connected with?
That's correct. We take what they're paying currently per kilowatt. And for example, in electric, we analyze what they're paying currently in electricity per kilowatt. And we compare it against the rates that we have for our suppliers in the state of Maryland and see if we can offer them something better.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Seeing no, Commissioner Herman.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rosen, I guess I'm a little confused with how you can sign an affidavit that says you're going to comply with all the Maryland regulations and you simply don't say, and you've admitted here that you don't, and your compliance officer is not familiar with the PSC law, the PSC regulations, or the Telephone Solicitation Act. So help me understand why we should grant you a license when you've admitted here today that you don't have any of, you don't know anything about any of those.
Sure.
So why would we grant you a license today?
Sure. That's a fair question. Learning these rules would take time. And if there are other issues underlying that we wouldn't be approved for, then we don't feel the need to learn the rules up front. Once you say, yes, we're going to allow you to do business in our states, but these are the guidelines you have to follow, then we're going to ask for those guidelines and follow them, or we're going to get them and follow them. It's kind of like if Maryland said, well, you're a new entity and we're not going to approve you for that, or whatever reason that they came up with. Why would we want to learn something about your regulations if we're never going to apply them? So we wanted to see, where's Maryland at, the state of Maryland, with getting us approved. And if they say, we will approve you, but you have to abide by these guidelines, and we will.
I guess I guess it's to me, you've signed an affidavit saying you're going to comply. If we were to grant you a license today, you could start marketing tomorrow or this afternoon with no knowledge, no knowledge of the rules or regulations. And you could be signing people up. You could be slamming people, at least under the definitions of the Maryland Public Service Commission. So I have to say I'm very concerned. I understand that, you know, you want to get a license, but I think you need to understand how we operate in Maryland before we can get a license, give you a license, because otherwise you could engage in practices that the commission doesn't allow without knowing it, and not even doing it on purpose, but without even knowing it. So I find this right now very problematic with the admissions that we had this morning.
Well, Ms. Herman, that's, I understand your thought process, but we are not a new entity. We're not in this for the short run. The only people that I know of that do the type of business practices that you speak of are people that plan on not being around long term. They're scammers, and they're looking, like you said, to slam people. That doesn't help for our long term agenda. We're here for the long run. We want to continue to grow this business as we've done on our LED side, and we don't want to get a bad rap. It doesn't make sense for us business wise to slam customers and get a bad name. And for what? It's short-term money. We're looking to grow the business and create new opportunities for people to have employment and to see our business grow and flourish and see our customers save money. Slamming customers doesn't help us achieve that goal.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions, I do not believe that this applicant has the fitness to receive a license in the state of Maryland. As Commissioner Herman noted, Mr. Rosen did sign a notarized affidavit stating that he was familiar with the laws and regulations of the PSC, the FERC, and other authorities, which is clear that it was demonstrated today that no member of Hercules Energy LLC or its compliance team is familiar with the laws and regulations of this state. And it's unreasonable to allow this commission on the applicant's word to become familiar after the fact with the regulations once the license is granted. For that reason, I will move that we reject the application. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linden.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved. Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, item number 5 on today's administrative agenda consists of updated retail transmission rates for Schedule PIV from Potomac Electric Power Company. On this item for staff, we have Anna Joy Harris and Lloyd Spivak, and for the company, Douglas McKeel and Lance Schaefer.
Good morning, Ms.
Can I
Harris.
ask a quick question before I sign off here? If we would like to reapply, and how can we go about that process at a later date?
Mr. Rosen, you're gonna your item has now been closed. You'll have to contact the commission staff with your counsel to get further information regarding the application.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Ms. Harris, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Anna Joy Harris on behalf of staff. On February 17th, 2021, PEPCO filed revised tariff pages to reflect the current FERC-approved transmission rates for Schedule PIV, which were inadvertently left out of the company's December 31st, 2020 filing of their clean copy tariff. Both the old and new transmission service charges for Schedule PIV are the same as Schedules R and RPIV, which were approved by the Commission on February 3rd, 2021. The Schedule PIV rate is decreasing by 42.08%. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the revised tariff pages for filing with an effective date of February 1st, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn to counsel for Potomac Electric Power.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I have nothing to add other than thanking Ms. Harris and staff for expediting this matter, and we're prepared to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Thank you, Mr. McKeel. Questions from the commissioners?
Briefly, Mr. McKeel, are customers being charged under you're going to go back, you're going to backdate to February 1st. Are you going to rebill anybody who's been billed under the incorrect tariff, or are you going to just move forward?
If we're going to rebill, all customers will pay the rate as of February 1, Commissioner. So we have approximately 128 customers on this rate. And so that'd be about $386 that we'd be rebilling. But right now we have the old rate in place waiting for this approval.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no additional questions, I would move that we.
Chair?
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Linton.
That's okay. There's one question for Mr. McKeel. Good morning, Mr. McKeel. Do you have a mechanism to inform customers about what happens and why they're getting the corrected bill?
We can do that. I don't know that we had a mechanism. It's not a large amount and it's going to be a reduction.
Right.
So I think the customers will be pleased, but I can look into that, Commissioner.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's about $386 by my calculation.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this point, I'll move that we accept the revised tariff pages for filing non-protunct with an effective date of February 1st, 2021. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Linton,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
and Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 6 on today's administrative agenda is a request from Baltimore Gas and Electric Company for a waiver of the requirement for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to modify an existing overhead transmission line in Baltimore and Howard counties. On this item today for staff, we have Samrit Duree, Michael Dean for the company, Jessica Raba, Neil Tranter, David Oten, and for the state PPRP, Jenny Rogers, Sandra McLemore, and Steve Towson.
Good morning. We'll begin with staff.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Samri Darare on behalf of Commission staff. On January 22nd, 2021, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, BGE, filed with the Commission a request for a mandatory waiver from the requirements to obtain a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, CPCN, as set forth in Section 7-207B4I of the Public Utilities Article in connection with a project that includes the installation of 2 115 kV breakers at BGE's Chestnut Hill substation, along with 6 new overhead transmission poles and conductors, as well as the removal of SAD limitations on the Pumphrey to Frederick Road circuits. BGE proposed the project to address a planning criteria violation identified in the BGE system by the PJM as part of its Regional Transmission Expansion Planning, or RTEP process. According to the company, no additional easement would be required for the construction of the project, and work would take place in existing BGE right-of-way. And no larger or higher structures are required to accommodate increased voltage or larger conductors. BGE asserts that the proposed project, as validated by PJM, addresses the identified need effectively by sectionalizing its existing circuits, thereby improving reliability. As part of the development of the project, the company stated that it considered preliminary conceptual alternatives, but ultimately selected the proposed project as the best overall solution based on effectiveness in addressing the need, cost, and feasibility considerations. The company also stated that for projects proposed to address criteria violations, such as the proposed project, PJM's role is to coordinate with the transmission owner to validate the effectiveness of the proposed solution in addressing the identified need and to ensure that the solution does not cause harm to the bulk electric system. According to the company, PJM's process does not require the company to provide an alternative analysis. Based on the review of the company's filing, staff concludes that the proposed project satisfies the statutory requirements for a mandatory waiver, and therefore staff recommends that the Commission grant the company's mandatory CPCN waiver from the requirements of the PUA requirements for work described in the company's filing. Thank you.
Thank you for that recitation and for the extensive book sheet that staff prepared. We'll turn to the state's power plant research program.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Steve Tolson, counsel for PPRP, and also with me today is Ginny Rogers. I don't believe PPRP, they filed a letter on March the 4th of 2021 stating that they had no objection to granting BG&E's request. There was just simply a notation in the letter that BG&E still has some data that they're going to produce and that they've agreed to produce. And I'll defer to Ginny Rogers, who's on this call, if she wants to add anything further.
That's correct. We just want to make sure BGE receives all the required permits and approvals before construction begins.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. We'll next turn to the utility, Baltimore Gas and Electric.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Jessica Reba on behalf of BGE. I'm joined today by Neil Tranter, the Principal Project Manager, and David Outen, the Section Engineer for this project. We do want to start by thanking staff and PPRP for the timely and thorough review of our request and for their ultimate recommendation. I'd just like to respond briefly to staff's comments, if that's okay. We want to note that this project did go through the appropriate review process at PJM for these types of projects. And by these types of projects, this is a baseline reliability project. So it's a project that was initiated by PJM, and it is needed to solve a very specific problem on a very localized portion of BGE's system. So this project doesn't affect any other transmission zone or operators. And as part of PJM's process, not only does PJM review the proposed solution by the transmission operator, but the solution and proposed project is also presented to the TEAC at a TEAC meeting where all participants and stakeholders in that process have the opportunity to review the proposed solution, raise any concerns, ask any questions, et cetera. So I just wanted to state that that is the review process in place, and this project did go through that. But other than that, we're here to answer any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have questions? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Reba, I wanted to, based on what you just said about the interaction with PJM and the project, I wanted to understand that a little bit better. So is this part of the RTEP?
Yes.
So it was a project not initiated by the transmission owner, the company. It was a project initiated by PJM.
That's correct.
As a mandate to the, okay, because it feels like, to me, it feels like one of these transmission operator initiated type projects because of its scope. It's relatively small in nature, relatively. Right. And so it didn't feel like it was a project that rose to the level of the RTEP process.
I believe it is in the RTEP, but you're correct in that it was a project initiated by PJM. So it is not, to your point, I think what's referred to as a supplemental project. So a project that would have been initiated by the transmission owner, that would have had a very different review process at PJM. But this is not that type of project.
It's not a supplement, and that's really what I was clarifying. So I appreciate that distinction, and because that's important as we look at transmission improvements. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to understand a little better the concern of staff. And it was really about the, I guess, the transparency, the ability to get information. Just so I understand, is that correct? And was the extent of understanding the, how the alternatives were determined, the extent of the answer to that contained in, I guess it was data response 1.7?
Sorry, is that directed to me or staff? Sorry.
I'm sorry, staff, to staff.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners. So the concern is we didn't really have the opportunity to confirm the company's assessment of the proposed project is the the best overall solution. The company indicated that they did a preliminary review of other alternatives, but that's just the information we have, and the company didn't provide that in their application. We're just hoping to, to have that information in the application.
Okay. And then if I could ask the company, Ms. Rabab, why you did do an assessment of alternatives, is that correct? It sounds like you, according to at least what we're reading, there were alternatives, and then you actually went through a process of refining the project proposal that you have now. So I guess that's a yes/no question, but why didn't you provide staff with the information they requested?
Yeah, thank you for raising this. And I did want to state that to the extent staff thought we were being anything less than fully transparent in our data request response, that certainly wasn't our intention, and we apologize if that's how it was taken. We received quite a few data requests on this project covering a very wide range of topics, and we certainly endeavored to be responsive to all of them. To the extent there was additional information that staff was looking for and we have it, we're more than willing to provide that. And I will say, going forward, now that we know that this is an important issue for staff, we will endeavor to be more thorough in our responses to those types of questions. But there was no intention to be anything less than fully transparent. And you're correct. There at the outset, BGE always considers multiple alternatives before selecting one proposed solution. And there were several alternatives here that were ruled out for a variety of reasons. I don't know how much into that you want me to get, but we're fully transparent. So we do apologize if that was the implication.
Okay, well, I very much appreciate that, because as Commissioner O'Donnell, he touched on the issues here, and of course this is an important project for the reliability. But we're looking at this, across the whole PJM footprint, and a lot of times there seems to be this back and forth. Well, PJM doesn't require this, and then on this case, if it's a Maryland specific project, Marylanders will be paying, particularly specifically for the entire project. And so I think as a commission, we're entitled to understand what alternatives are out there to make sure that we are getting the right project for the state of Maryland. And there has been a lot of concern among the OPSI state, the PJM states, that there's been resistance to enhancements to transparency, and we see transmission costs going up, and this resistance to enhancements to the whole transparency process of the project. So I appreciate your answer today. I would ask staff, though, I'd be interested to know, do we need enhancements to the public utility article in Maryland, I guess 7207, to make sure that we can compel our utilities to give us the information on alternative planning and alternative processes, so we can be sure as a commission, when Marylander is going to be paying for the project, that we have all that information to ensure it is the right project proposal. So I would just ask for that, for staff to consider that, and maybe other commissioners be interested to find out if there are proposals we might want to make to the legislature to ensure that you get the information as staff, so that we can make the right decisions at the commission level. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no other questions or comments, I would move with respect to this application for waiver that we grant the company's request for waiver of the CPCN requirement under Public Utilities Article Section 7-207B4I. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion is approved. The commission will reconvene later this morning in 15 minutes at 11 a.m. for the continuation of the supplier consolidated billing rulemaking in RM 70 on this channel. At this point, the administrative meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.